You are welcome to Chris Academy. By the end of today's class, you're going to know the difference between relative cell addressing, absolute cell addressing, and mixed cell addressing as it is related to copying and pasting formulas in Microsoft Excel. So we're taking relative cell addressing first, then absolute, then we'll go back to mixed. On the screen right now, we have a table. I spent a little time to make this table. This table is a table of sales made by a certain company. Company sells cement, sugar, and salt across the days of the week from Monday to Saturday. Now we want to find the total of the sales for each of the days, for Monday, for Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on, using Excel formulas. And again, if you don't know how to use Excel formulas, search our channels. We've done tons of tutorials on that very topic. So here we just want to use Microsoft Excel sum function to find the sum of the, the sales on cement, sugar, and salt for Monday. Then after which we use that same formula to autofill other rows for other days. That is, we do for Monday, then we'll fill from Tuesday to Saturday automatically. Let's go ahead and write this sweet function. Okay, so if I write the function right now, equality sign, remember the rules, then sum, I open and close my parentheses, then inside the brackets I can reference this range, and this range is from G5. So I type G5, then I take my column, which is range from G5 to I5. As you can see, Microsoft Excel have rightly highlighted this range I've typed. Now this formula is saying Microsoft Excel, I want you to sum the data or the values you see inside this particular cell G5 to I5 and give me the summed value. Alright, so if I hit enter on my keyboard, you can see that we have a total of $6,029 for the three products on Monday. Now, if you want to calculate the summations for Tuesday, Wednesday through Saturday, we just go ahead and hold this autofill handle here. Then remember our mouse sign turns from a fat cross to a thin cross. Then after which I will hold down my mouse button and drag across the days. So now we automatically fill this column. Now what happened there? What we just did is to copy this formula that we've written already and paste them individually to these cells to make similar calculations. So drawing this in this handle down here simply means we are copying these formulas and pasting them individually. Like if you study the formula, this is my initial formula that I typed, not quite long, and this is the one I produced by drawing this handle. So if you study this one, my cell was changing from G5 to G7, as you can see the progression, to G9 in accordance to the rows. So this, we were able to achieve this because we wrote this formula in relative reference format or in relative cell address format. That was why we were able to achieve this. The same thing if we write a function here to get the totals for the cement, for the sugar, salt across the product, we can write the same function here. I can say equality sum, open and close, then I will reference this guy. So I'm summing from G5 to G10. So G5 to G10. Now I'll hit enter. The same way I can draw this guy across the columns to get the summation. So here we have $7,105. Okay, so that is relative cell addressing. Now we want to make a little alteration to this formula so that we can see the absolute version of the same formula and see the effect that it has. So I can call this total 2 just to make a little difference, and maybe I will have another one that I can call total 3 for the mixed. Total 3. Okay, for total 2 I want to make a little changes to this formula so that it will be in absolute format. So if I go ahead and write the same formula on the screen right now, I reference the same cell, which is G5 to I5 to I5. I've selected it. Now we'll make a little difference here. What did I want? I want a dollar sign in front of G, a dollar sign in front of 5, a dollar sign in front of I, and a dollar sign in front of 5 as well. So that means the dollar sign simply means absoluteness. So let's go ahead and do this. To add a dollar sign in front of G5, G5 is this cell here. To add a dollar sign, Microsoft Excel has a shortcut for that, which is F4. So if I go ahead and press F4 on my keyboard, you can see that automatically I have a dollar sign in front of G and a dollar sign in front of 5. So this particular cell has been addressed absolutely. So that means dollar sign simply means absoluteness. So the same way I can add dollar signs in front of I and 5 as well by pressing F4. So this formula is absolute right now. So if I hit enter, I have exactly the same value I had when I typed it in relative format, the same value. But the difference comes when we want to duplicate these formulas. We want to autofill this other row just the way we did there. If you try doing that, dragging this autofill handle, I'm holding it now, I'm dragging it across. Now you can see that Excel ignores whatever you are doing. It keeps up to $6,029. Nothing changes. If you study the formulas on the formula by static, G5, I5, all true. Look at this one, G5, I5. While here, the cell's address were changing from G6 to G7 to G8. So here it's static. So it's a very good example to explain absolute cell addressing, depending on what you are doing though, because most of the Microsoft Excel formulas do use absolute cell address format. That is dollar sign must precede the column indicator and the row indicator as well. Alright, so the last one is mixed cell addressing. In this column total 3, we're going to explain this concept. Now what is mixed? In layman language, mixed means a combination of two things. So right now we have relative cell addressing and absolute cell addressing. So mixed simply means a mixture of these two, a mixture of relative and absolute cell addressing. So how can we achieve this mixed? If I type the same sum function that we'll be using, and remember I've been working from G5 to I5. Okay, so when I I5 should be I. Okay, so when I made this guy absolute, I simply pressed F4 to add the dollar sign in front of the column and the row indicator. So if I press F4 here, F4 here, I've gotten this exact formula I've gotten here. Okay, so the idea is I want to make this guy, because right now is in absolute format. Just check the formula bar, is what I'm saying. So I don't want it in absolute, I want it in mixed formula. So what is a mixed cell address? A mixed cell address is such that either the column is mixed, is absolute, and the row is relative, or the row is absolute and the column is relative. That means I might have dollar sign in front of the row indicator, but definitely it's not going to be in front of the column indicator, or vice versa. So to achieve that, I can keep pressing F4. Watch me. When I press F4, I have $5. That means the dollar sign, the sign of absoluteness, is no more in front of G. If I press it again, the dollar sign comes to G and is no longer in 5. So at this state, you can say is what is the relative format: absolute column, relative row, absolute column G, relative row 5. If I press F4 again, it takes me to what? Plain relative cell address. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. I want to keep the column G relative while the row is constant, absolute. So let's press again, press again. Okay, so the column is relative, the row is absolute. Same thing will happen here. The column is relative, I is column, Y5 is absolute. Okay, at this point, if I go ahead and click on this mark here, and let's see the value. So I have the same value here, and if I drag across here, you see that the values were still static. Reason being that my row, being row 5, is absolute. So if I try dragging across the rows, nothing will happen because it's absolute. Good. I hope you understand. In fact, let me extend this to total 4. I have another total here, and I try to change things up. If I type the same function again, then I have G5 to I5. This time I want G to be absolute and 5 to be relative, I absolute, 5 relative, and I hit enter. Then I drag the autofill handle down. So you see that it's like the fixed total. It's changing. Am I correct? Oh no, it's not the way it's supposed to be. So here I want I to be absolute. So I press F4 again. Good. I is absolute. This guy is relative. Okay, so when I hit enter and I drag across, you see that it gives us exactly the same thing like when we were writing in relative format, because we are dragging these guys across the rows. So as long as the row is absolute, being row 5 is relative, as long as the row is relative, when you drag across, you can copy and paste these formulas in relative format. So remember, this is a mixed cell address with a relative row, while this one is a mixed cell address with an absolute row. So depending on what you are doing, things can change, but this is a very good example to understand the difference between relative cell addressing, absolute, and mixed. So mixed simply means either the column is absolute and the row is relative, or the row is absolute and the column is relative. Remember the Excel shortcut to add the dollar signs in front of what? The row and the column indicator, and thereabout we use F4. So with that, we come to the end of today's class. I believe you've learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels and comment below. Feel free to comment if you find anything difficult, or maybe if I was too fast or there's a concept I didn't explain the way you wanted it. Comment below and I will always be available to respond to your comments. I check my YouTube channels almost every day. See you in our next tutorials. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment below.